What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Melting Glass with Roysko. I'm Roysko. This is baby Anita, who's always got to be the center of attention, so she jumped up on the table as soon as I started recording. We got a sweet episode for you guys today. I'm showing you how to make a slurper set. But first, let's go over the sponsors, and I'll show you a couple things they're giving away for you guys. What? Come on, get down on my lap. Stop. Come on. You crazy kid. All right, so we got two awesome sponsors today. We got Ignite Quartz. They make some crazy quartz, super high quality. And our people over at Bitchin blades gave us some blades to give away. Some of the coolest dabbers you'll ever see. Come with these awesome sheaths so you can travel with them. They're sharp, but not sharp enough you're going to cut yourself, so don't worry. You're really just going to lay right on the slurper set? Kid. All right. This is what I deal with. So what I'm going to take you into the studio and show you how to make is a slurper set for one of these bubblegum machine slurpers from Ignite Quartz. Super awesome. Here's the set I got for y'all today. You can see we got a mallard marble for the top, a mallard valve for the middle, and a couple of terp pearls, baby. And then we got sweet Bitchin blade or dab tool. And they gave me an extra one to give away on Instagram, not just one for YouTube. So if you're watching this right now, make sure you like this video, subscribe to me, and then go on to Instagram, follow Ignite Quartz, and follow Bitchin Blades. If you're following all of us on Instagram, you'll have a chance to win this blade. And if you like, subscribe, and comment on this video, you can win the slurper set, the nail, and the blade. Ballin'. Let me show you how this setup works. I got my last Patreon giveaway last month, or by the time this video comes out, it will have been last month. I gave away both of these on Instagram to our non-functional, non-pipe tier. I gave away this cup, 9mm round into it with some blood dripping, 2 different purples and lip wraps, looking so sick. And then this duck dive number 3 rig, my third duck dive rig, where the duck is going through the blooper. Also, make sure you go check out Peace of Mind OC for KSR's show later this month. I made a duck dive rig with him, number 4, for that show. And let's check out how these slurper sets work before we go into the studio and I show you how to make one. So first you get your slurper in there, you drop a couple of terp pearls, you put your valve in the middle, and then your big slurper marble at top. Shredders. So now once you got all that put together, you heat it up, get your dab on your Bitchin blade. Probably should have water in the rig though. And then you dab away. Look at that function. What a great combo. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe on this. Go check out Instagram and like and comment on the post about this video coming out. And now we're going to head into the shop. I'm going to show you guys how to make a slurper set for one of these bubblegum machine nails from Ignite Quartz. And then you might just win yourself a Bitchin blade to dab off of it with. If you don't, go support these two sponsors. They're the reason why I'm doing this video. Buy up their stuff so we can do more videos like this. And I'll see you in the shop. All right, y'all, now we're out here in the shop. Time to get this made. So we have our banger here, and we're going to make a few different size marbles for this. We have our top marble, which you want to be between 20 minimum and 25mm maximum. After that, it starts to get a little bit tippy. And under 20, it'll be either hard to grab or falling inside of it. Then we have our valve marble right here that goes in the middle. That one you want about 10 to maybe 13mm, should fit through and sit right on there. You got a little leeway there. And then we'll have our little pearls on the bottom. So I have a pair of calipers here that I can use to check the size if I need to, but I know these by now. And I have my marble molds, of course, I like this one because it's got all different sizes, all the small stuff on here. This one's got 3 generic larger sizes. Sometimes I just use this one. You can get away with just the smaller one, but this guy right here is nice if you want to do a little bit bigger marble for the top, depending on what you're trying to put in that marble. Sometimes it's better to have a bigger size. We're just doing an Encalmo marble this time, so pretty straightforward. One thing I like to do before I start is make sure I got punties all prepped out, because you're going to need these. You pass the marbles back and forth to clean them up and round them out. So I like 5 mil and 8 mil. I know some people prefer a little bit bigger on one side or smaller on the other. The 5 mil I can press pretty hard in my hand without them snapping. Some of my friends use 4 and they just break in my hand too much. Or I know a lot of people that use 6 or 7 only and don't go between 2 different sizes, but I'm a 2 size kind of guy. And we got our colors here. Lotus white is my favorite white. We got grizzly for the brown for this one. Nice, dark, deep brown. And then we're going to use some jade. I don't think I've actually used jade for any of these marbles yet, but I wanted to see how it works. Doesn't scuzz up too much like some of the other greens. So hopefully it doesn't have any problems cooling down, because opaque green is notoriously a sketchy color to work with. They've gotten way better over the years, but when I first started blowing glass, I have lost multiple pieces to opaque greens. And I remember, I think it was Byron Bears that told me when I first started blowing glass, don't make Millie with green in it, because it's gonna explode. But now we'll get started. We'll start off with the green. We'll make our big marble first, and then we'll do our little valve, and then we'll do our really little turp pearls, baby. So first thing first is warm up the color, and we'll use gravity to gather it. So getting a nice deep heat, getting a lot of the rod right here hot, pretty decent sized flame. If I'm trying to pump stuff out, now is the time when you can really use a big flame, because you don't have to do anything intricate on this. You just want to glob it up as big as you can, but you do want it on center, of course, so you have a nice even and round marble. So you can see my hand is a little bit below the top of the rod, so the gravity will draw the glass back onto itself, and you can already see it starting to gather up into a slightly larger ball right there. And I'll keep doing that for a little bit. If it starts to get a little bit too wobbly on you and whatnot, just pull it out of the flame. If it starts to fold over to one side, pull it out of the flame, go sideways and try and straighten it out. If you can't straighten it out like that, you can always lean it down for a moment, but the more you lean it down, the thinner it'll get over here at the where it's connected to the rod, where the bulbous area is connected to the rod, and that makes it harder to control afterwards. So just want to let it slowly gather up on itself and get to where you need it. If it's taking too long for you, add a handle on and ball it up faster like that. I usually will do this for a moment just to see how big I can get it before I add on the handle, and then I'll work it back before I take it off of the rod to get a little bit more color, because when you're doing the duck pieces, I like the green and the green section of the calmo to be the biggest. White, obviously, just a small ring, and then brown, slightly smaller section of it, so I'm not going for a perfectly medium. If I was doing it in calmo with 2 colors on either side and 1 thinner color in the middle, I would make this bulb with each of the rods before I put them all together and make sure they're the exact same size. But that's not what we want for the duck, because I think it looks cooler when you got the big green section, little white section, and a medium-sized brown section. So now we got a decent amount of it gathered up. About time to throw a punty on this thing and tear it off of the rod. I will gather some more glass. You'll see it's so much easier when you have a punty on the other side to ball it up faster, because you can push from both sides instead of having to let gravity do all of your pushing. But when you're first starting out, it is definitely easier to have one hand spinning than try and keep both hands in sync. So now I add on a punty right there. Melt that in just so it's not going to break off too easy on me. Bingo, bango, bongo. And now we'll gather up on the right side here from the rod. So now I'm heating up the rod right there, and once it starts to get hot, I'll slowly, I want that left side where the punty's attached to be cooled down so it doesn't get all wobbly and moving too much on me. Now I will be pushing from the right side, and you can see it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it's not balling up perfectly round because I'm using that force, so the gravity isn't making everything stay round. My force is making it happen faster than what the gravity would do. And then you can either leave it on the green or leave it on the punty. I'll probably leave it on the green just because it's a bigger, thicker rod than the little punty, my 5mm punty I grabbed. And it should still be long enough to do what I need for the rest of it. And if I need to add more green on, it'll be much easier if it's already on the rod. I'll let it cool down just a little bit. So that's about the size that I want for the top half of the marble there. It'll be slightly wider when it's completely bunched up when I add on the other colors. And now I'll tear off the clear. You see there's a little bit of clear left behind right there. I want to make sure you get that off. You can do that with a rod or with tweezers. I like these little tungsten tweezers, they are great. They're called tungsten tweezers, but I'm pretty sure that's graphite, I don't know. Maybe it's tungsten. They break like graphite, that's for damn sure. I go through those things. Now I will gather this up a little bit more. Get that little nipple off of there. And then I'll pat it down a little bit using the back side of my marble mold. That's actually the paddle that I use the most right here. Anything that's not giant, I'll just use this paddle for. And we will paddle this down a little bit just to thicken it all up. Bang, bang. Every time you touch something with a tool, you want to heat it up, kind of relieve that stress that will happen in the glass if you do not. And I want to get the end of it just slightly rounded still, so I don't accidentally catch an air bubble or something when I attach the white, depending on how big of a glob you're putting on. If you're using two colors that you've condensed down enough, you could catch an air bubble in there. So it's better to have it a little bit rounded out so it's easy to meet in the middle. But with this one, I'm going to flash this real quick. With this one, I'm just using a white rod right here, so I'm not too worried about catching air, honestly, but better safe than sorry, as they say. This white really holds heat for a while too. It's just a soft, fun color to work with. Now I got the white hot, so I'll put it right into there and start pushing on the white like I did before to gather up a nice band of white. On with the green. I don't want too much because I like a somewhat thin band. So I gathered a bit up. Let it cool out for a second and then change my flame to a nice little guy. A little bit sharper. And that's better for cutting off the section right here. So I'm going to pull off some excess after I take off the whole rod. So now if I was doing it with a rod, this is how I would tear it off. I'm not using tweezers, how I did on that clear. Going on the side, spin it around, tearing it off at the middle point so it keeps it as even as possible. And that should be enough white. Let me take a little bit more off. And then melt that in a little bit. Big flame for quick melt, so y'all don't have to watch this, but if you're learning, stick with a smaller flame. You'll learn more about heat control and whatnot, but it will take longer. But it also won't get out of control as easily. I'm melting that in. I will paddle it a little bit too here. Once again, I'm having my hand lower than the tip of the rod so that it can condense back on the piece, of course. A little paddle. When I paddle, especially in the beginning, I just kind of do taps so I don't do too much of one big motion, because if you throw it off center or something like that, you don't want to throw it all off center at once. Take it off, you can only do so much damage that quick that you have to correct. And then now, condensing it down a little bit more. Try and get it a little bit more even where it flows from the white to the green before I add on the brown. I'm going straight on a little bit more too, so I have that tip like I mentioned before. You want to do that to prevent having a pocket of air in your marble that can make it explode later. Paddle it one more time just to thicken it up. Now you can see it's pretty flowy between those two. You can also take it right here and roll it in your L-marver. That'll also take the sides and push them together so it flows right between from the white to the green. Pretty flush. Doesn't need to be perfect yet. Obviously, it's not even a marble shape yet. And we got our brown grizzly. There's a few browns I'll use, but this is my favorite for a nice opaque one. Easy to work with, doesn't bubble too much, and it's just so deep and dark brown. And we attach that into the center, and just like we did before, we're pushing into the white. Because this is such a darker, stiffer color than the white, you can see it's moving way slower when it's getting pushed onto there. It's not like the white where as soon as I touch it, it just all balls up or clumps up on there. This definitely takes quite a bit more to get like that because it is a stiffer, darker color. Black being the stiffest and white being the softest. This is all on the black side of the spectrum. I'll just continue melting that in, getting everything evened out. Adding a little bit more brown here and there, but mainly just starting to smooth out the sides. That's why my flame is hitting right on that seal where they went together. And then once I start getting that melted together, I might add a little bit more brown on. I want to make sure it's nice and straight, and I'll probably leave it on the brown first to start shaping up the roundness marble aspect of it. When you're right here, you can always check it on your marble mold to look at the size and see if it'll fit in there, see if it's too big, too small, or you can use your calipers. Make sure if you're doing hot work, use metal calipers. They're a little more expensive, but they don't melt, so I have both metal and plastic. The plastic I like to use for finished work because I don't have to worry about scratching anything. And of course metal for anything that's hot. Do a little roll right here like I did before. Make sure everything's nice and evened out. Cool down the sides. And we got our white band between a bigger section of green and a smaller section of brown now. Now I'm just tearing off that green. I got plenty there, so I didn't leave any extra on. I'm bad about leaving all those little long tails on here. Depending on who I'm working with, sometimes they'll complain when I leave those all over their bench, but sorry, fam. I'm a big tear off with glass guy, but you can always tear that off with tweezers too if you're trying to save little funds, or if you want, you can use China punties or cheap shitty glass punties because that's all just getting thrown away. As long as you're not using it in your work, you don't have to worry about how strong or quality it is. Now we're going to start balling this up a little bit. So we just want to get a good heat in there. Let the heat do the work and round it out. As you can see, it's already starting to round up on top there. Naturally, it wants to be a big ball. Like if you're spinning honey on the end of a rod. I know that's what everybody says when they describe glass, but that's just because it is the best way to describe it. And then from here, we'll go into our marble mold, get it shaped up just a little bit more, switch sides, do it again. You should be able to see now that the top green is very rounded out. The brown is not yet because I don't want to put too much heat on the brown side, get it wobbly on my punty right here, even though it's not really a punty, it's still a rod that's welded on. And then we can shape it up in our marble mold. Always keep spinning, different angles, all that good stuff, and then always heat up right when you come out of a tool if you can. But you don't want to let it sit in the marble mold on one side because it will add divots, cool down one side more than the other. And to make something nice and round, it's the easiest way to do it is just have really evenly distributed heat, and then everything will come out nice and round because the glass will do all the work as long as it's similar or the same color on that side. Within Calmos, there's large sections of the same color, so those colors will want to round out naturally. And the other sections, like the white in here, might have to be a little bit forced with the marble mold, but honestly not too much. Now I'm working a little bit more towards the white. We'll go into the marble mold at a little bit more of an angle. Start shaping it up. Sometimes I like to just leave my marble mold down. What's the name of the guy that makes that marble mold you like, Matt? The good one you have?
Mike Close, I think.
Mike Close, maybe? Yeah. He makes. There's a marble mold without the harsh edges on it. That is it's a bit more expensive, a lot harder to make because it doesn't have those harsh round or the harsh edges like this one, and it makes it a lot easier to use because you'll never catch the edge. But I heard he might not be making them anymore. I'm not positive on that. I just saw that they were sold out, and somebody was complaining that like they couldn't find them and had to buy them secondhand off somebody else because they're not sure if they're ever coming back into stock or not.
Well, that's why I'm selling mine for $2,000.
There you go. I don't know if y'all heard that, but Matt's selling this for $2,000 if anybody's interested. He's now mic'd up. This mic is way good at canceling out the noise. I love it if we're working in a glass shop and recording.
My hands, we'll see how the video is.
Oh, you're good. But like when I'm recording in a glass studio, obviously we have ventilation up above, torch right in front of us, but my voice comes through crystal clear without too much background. That's why I absolutely love these microphones for glass work. Now I use them for my live stream and everything. I used to wear my Xbox headset when I live streamed, but you could pick up everything in the background. Now with this, you want to keep spinning, push and pull and spin it around a little bit too. Just trying to get your roundness out. The more you do it, the more you'll know what needs to be done, but it's just about seeing how the glass moves. Is a great way to learn how the glass moves and how to get it rounded out. You can see it's starting to get round there. I'm almost at the point where I'll switch to the other side and round out the other side. You can see right here, this is going to fit great on top of that slurper that one of y'all is taking home this whole set, baby, with the dab tool as well. Y'all getting hooked up. Just comment, subscribe, like, all that bullshit.
And buy my marble mold, please.
Yeah, and especially if you're beginning, sometimes it's nice to be able to use two hands like that when you're doing this. I like to use two hands when I go into the mold especially, but if I have a mold like this where I need to hold it, then I don't, of course, because I got to hold the mold. It's getting very, very round. So now what we're gonna do, put a punty on this side, tear off this side, work our way back. I'm using the green punty. What you can do is you can use a clear one, but then you risk when you take it off, leaving a mark of clear on there that you have to tear off and fix up. Or you can even just put a little section of this onto a bigger rod that you like and use that for the punty as well. I'll probably just use this, it's long enough. Makes my life a little easier. Got a little cold seal right there. The more you do this, the better you get at the cold seals, where you're like where it breaks off when you want it to break off and not before. This is a new color for me, so I actually am a little bit nervous doing a cold seal with it. The more I know the color, the more I know how much heat I need to have for a cold seal, but this should work out great. Got a little nipple right there. And with this too, like, say it breaks off, it's no problem. You just put another punty on and keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. You can switch axes back and forth to get it round as many times as you need. No shame in that game. As long as you're not like a time competition or something. And you want to get it done first try. But yeah, say I need to get this side round again, I just throw a punty on this side and round it out. And then what if I fuck up the other side while I'm doing that? I just go to the other side.
Language.
Sorry. Try not to curse in these. So I don't get kicked off YouTube and get my monetization. So when I get 100 views, I get my whole $0.0000001. Bang, bang, we're getting there. You saw how that immediately got it so much rounder. And now we're focusing on that bottom of the marble right now. Let's get the last of it rounded out. Coming a little bit towards the middle, but I don't want to go too much and get it wobbly or put the punty on too strong. Spinning it around in my marble mold. I think this marble mold is about 22 or 23 millimeters. I think that's kind of a sweet spot for the slurpers. Honestly, anything 20 to 25 works though. It's also why I'm working on my new Boral Marble League track that will accommodate 20 to 25 millimeter marbles, no problem. Really stoked to show you all that soon. Hopefully by the end of this month, I'll have some videos up with the whole track completed. If you're on my Patreon, you already saw the marble escalator that I built for 20 to 25 millimeter marbles. So we're just a few steps away from the finishing the design, and then probably take a couple days to build the track and design every obstacle where I want it. Now I'm giving it all a nice little deep heat right here. Get it nice and round. I'll be ready to knock off into this marble mold and load into the kiln. Bang, bang. Now I'll give it one last heat. Knock it off into the mold. Load it in the kiln. If it doesn't knock off nicely, then I'll put another punty on it and clean up that side where I have the handle right now, but it's a duck and marble, y'all. Let me let that cool down a little bit so you can really see the colors actually. Or let's see if you can even when it's cooled down. It just looks like two sections of like dark brown glowing color and white in the middle. I don't think it's gonna fully cool down. I need it to be a little bit warm to do this part. So now, put it in our marble mold. Punty came off perfectly. That's what you want right there. We'll go around to where that punty mark was and polish it up. Oh, that was a good punty. It's almost no mark. Key is less punty mark. The better it is, or the easier it is going to be to finish. So If the punty mark was bad, or I could see that the punty was on too much, let me turn this off for a second. If the punty mark was bad, or I could see the punty was on it too much, I would have switched access to an even gentler punty on the other side, polished up this one, then knocked it off of that one, so I know I could just give it a quick flame polish here and have it all perfect. It looks all good. Just a little bit of heat on there to keep it even while it's chilling out. And I don't want to throw it right into the kiln right now because there's a hot spot on top. Don't want kiln dust stuck to it. Don't want it melting on that side. But as soon as that glow starts to dim and you know the outside's cool, if you really need to, you can give it a little flash of oxygen. That'll cool it down real quick. But not too much. You don't want to shock it. And now we go on over to the kiln where we pop it in. Let this thing run for a cycle. You can always grab it with tweezers or tongs or whatnot, but it's really easy if you have a nice marble mold on a handle just to walk it in there and tip it over. All right, now we got to make the valve ball, which goes right here above the little bubble gum section of the bubble gum machine or gumdrop machine. And let's get to it. We'll start with the green like we did last time. Basically all the same steps, but we're gonna go a lot smaller. Keep it in one of these two little marble molds right here. Usually fit it pretty good. I'd say 10 to 13 millimeters is workable. Probably 11 or 12 is ideal. Check out this lighter. Almost got through it, but it didn't blow up on me, baby. Let's go. Watch out for your lighters. Don't leave them on your bench. Put them over here. I got a fucking pile of them.
Do it for the people.
Do it for the people. Let's blow up the shop for the people. I forgot who was it, Dakota Madrona or somebody at a glass demo or the competition, Burn Galleries competition in Vermont. They have pipe off, and he had one on his bench during the competition with people watching, and that thing blew up in his face. All on video. Those are some great videos I used to love to watch with, what was his name? Ron Dabberden or something like that. It was like Ron Burgundy. Oh, Ron Burgundab. And it was salt glass. You just get blacked out and be Ron Burgundab, interview and annoy everyone. So funny.
Make sure you chain your K-tanks to the wall.
They can't hear you very good because it only picks up this. There's another microphone if you want it, Matt.
No.
All right.
Oh, this is another video we got really mad at people.
Oh, I remember that. Mine aren't chained up right now.
I know.
I got a huge
Oh,
liquid
yeah.
tank in my California shop that is chained with the smallest chain in the world, and the fire department's like, that's good. This would never do anything. So we got a little gather here. We don't want to go too big with this one, so we want to make sure it fits. But what we can do is let it cool down enough that I'm not going to warp it, let it sag or nothing like that when it's a little bit cooler. And then we just put it in there and check the size. I mean, bingo, bango, bongo. That's the easiest way to check the size. You don't need calipers. You don't need nothing fancy. Just actually check it. It's quartz, so it can handle that kind of heat better than borosilicate, and much better than soft glass. And I already have punties prepped up because I'm smart and I think ahead and whatnot. I'm so strong and brave. Take it down to a small little flame here. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to put them together off of this. What am I thinking? So next up, we got our white. I'll flatten this out just a wee little bit before I add the white onto it. And then heat it back up in the flame. We almost want to go the width of this Molten Aura Lotus White. I don't know what their reasoning is actually, but you can see the width on the Molten Aura colors is always wider. Great if you're doing blowouts, because this is honestly like the perfect size to condense down blowouts and fades. Those slugger bars, I'd say honestly, are a little bit too big for my preference, but they're so big you can really hide stones and stuff in it and charge people maximum price, but They are useful for some applications, of course. And North Star is pretty reliable about replacing stuff that has problems. So we add on that white, gather it up a little bit on there. Really easy to get it the same size because that molten aura is almost the exact size we want already. You can really see the size difference in the rods right there too. We'll just melt that together a little bit before we tear it off. Let it cool down so I don't pull it all apart while I'm tearing. Because of course, this rod is thick. Thick boys. I'll start tearing it off. Could even go with a sharper flame for this and probably be even smoother, but this gets it done faster. And I don't want you guys to have to sit there and watch me do the boring parts for so long. The video is already going to be long enough for making something as basic as a terp slurper set or bubblegum machine set. Shout out to Ignite Quartz. Their innovative quartz designs. All right. Now we'll paddle that just a little bit too. Add on the brown. This one, obviously, the smaller it is, the faster you can go because the rods are already almost the right size. And after this, we'll get onto them terp pearls, the little guys that get spinning. I'll just show you guys how to make one terp pearl afterwards because once you can make one, you can make a frillion. And when you're broke, just get wholesale orders for terp pearls, baby. Easy enough to make and just zone out and pump them out. People always need terp pearls. Alright, so now we got the brown on there. Smooth that out a little bit. Working right where that seam is. Tear it off at the bottom. Quite a bit extra right there, so take all that off. And we use some heat to round it out before we hit the marble mold. I have a little bit of extra green on this one actually. Might not have needed to go so big with that. I'm using gravity, letting it run down and shape it up. Glass blowing, when it comes to shaping, it's just a matter of physics, and when it comes to color, it's a matter of chemistry. If you're good at either one of those, if you're good at chemistry, stick with human. If you're good at physics, do some shaping, and learn the other one. So we got it, for the most part, shaped up right there. Gonna condense this down just a little bit more, round it out. And we'll check and see if it fits. I think I may have gone a little big on this, but it should fit at least down here. Boom. Well, that fits no problem. No problemo. Actually, you know what? I think I want some more brown on the bottom of this. So I'm going to tear off some of this. and add a little bit more brown. If you need to add more color on one side, so all you gotta do is heat it up and put it on there. Depending on the color, of course, because some colors, especially if it's a layered color, you could add a seam by doing that, which you won't want, but for any color that isn't layered and goes together smooth, you won't even see a seam right there. That color will all become one. And it's rounding out very nicely. A little bit off center, so we'll just center that up in the marble mold. Before we switch axes, round it out a little bit more with the heat too. There we go, we got half a marble made, or a little bit over half. Now we just got to do the end, so I'll take off this round, because once again, it's easier to have the same color punty, so you don't have to worry about leaving a clear mark on there when you break off your final punty. Punty up right there. Put it on strong enough, but not too strong. You want it to come off, but only when you want it to. And then we'll tear off that green. We're gonna have a little bit of extra green there. That, if I melted all that in, it would probably be just slightly too big to fit into the bubblegum machine. And now we let the heat do the work. Take a little bit more off, actually. Now I'm gonna let the heat do all the work. Melt it in before I go into the marble mold. Condense down on itself right there, get rid of that little nipple, and naturally it'll start to round out. Might need a small flame for this so you don't get the punty hot and get the marble wobbling or stretching or condensing on itself on the punty side, because you want that to stay pretty consistent. And we'll go into the marble mold. Popping between sizes. Still got a little bit elongation on this side, so I'm going to heat it up, condense it down a little bit more, and round it out in the mold. Looking great there. And we'll check the size one last time. Shit's right in there. That's what we're looking for. Give it a good heat. Get a nice overall heat, but I don't want stuff to be moving too much right here, because I don't want it to change shape. I just want to Give it an even heat for the sake of strength and annealing. And then we bop it off. Hopefully this punny comes off nice and smooth. Oop. There it goes. Got the green side up, so we flip it around till we see that punny mark. Almost no punny mark at all. Love to see it. Give it a little polish. I like to warm up the whole thing. I don't get it hot enough to move right here. I just want to get the punny mark movable and get the rest of it just hot to smooth out the heat base so it'll be nice and strong and anneal as good as possible. Even though it's going to go in that kiln, go through a full annealing cycle, even heats are always better for the glass, makes it strong in the long run. Got that guy ready to go into the kiln now. Go join your little ducking marble friend. There it is. Now we got one more thing to make, the terp pearls. All right, now it's time for the last step, the terp pearls. Like I said before, I'm just gonna make one of those for y'all. Do that as many times as you want. Fill up that whole bucket with terp pearls if you want to. But the basic concept of this is I'll take this rod, pull it down to somewhat of a stringer, not the smallest stringer, but a little bit more of a stringer, and then use gravity, just like I was doing before, to round out a little marble of that. Change axes to round out the other side. And you can use a drill and drill a hole into your graphite, and whatever size drill you're using will pretty much make that size and pretty dang round of a hole to roll your terp pearls in if you need it. But I just like to use gravity myself, so that's how I'm going to be doing it today. And let's get started. All right, so light up your torch. First, you'll use a little bit bigger flame to pull down the stringer, of course, but the rest of this is going to be done with a very small flame, so you have a lot of control. Depending on how many you want to make, if you want to make a lot, you can get a large section that's hot and pull out a bunch of stringer to use. If you're just making a couple of them or one of them, like right now, you don't need to pull down too much. Just grab the end of it, make sure it's hot. Give it a little tug. Let's see how this color moves. My first time pulling down this jade. Not too shabby. Cut back to where it's all about the same diameter. Get rid of that. Now I'll go to a nice small flame here, and we'll make a little ball on the end of it. Just let that all condense. And with these, you probably, I think it's about like maybe 5 millimeters is about the size of a terp pearl. And with the valve on the nail, you don't have to worry too much about them being too small, but other nails that don't have a section for the valve, if they're too small, you can suck them up and they'll go down into the perk of the rig. I've seen some of them get stuck down in there, but they're easy enough to get out still. So now you can see it's starting to round out. We're getting ourselves a little bit of a miniature marble here. Go ahead and zoom in on that, in the flame there. You can see I'm using a very small flame for this. If you go too big and this thing will get wobbly quick and you'll just have a big old messy glob of glass instead of a nice round one.
Just gonna have to take out my fingers on that one.
So that's about what you want right there, just a little marble off the end of your stringer. And then I like a small punty for doing this. It's always so hard for me to put punties on straight on camera. I get all nervous and shaky filming like this and talking at the same time, but let's hope that ain't too bad. That's workable. And then we need a pretty small flame here. Tear it off on the other side and focus all the heat only on this side now, because we don't want to let the We want to keep the marble, we have that side round, we want to get this side round without messing up the roundness on the other side and without melting on that punty too much so it can break off easily. With this piece being so small, it's really easy to just seal it to the clear. If that does happen though, you just punty up to the other side and back and forth. So we got a nice little flame here. Round that out. Let gravity do its job. And you can go into even a little bit larger of a marble mold here to round it out. It'll help out, make it a little bit quicker, but you don't need to. Or you can have if you have one of those mini turp pearl marble molds, and make yourself one. Obviously that works great as well. Now we got it all nice and rounded out. And we'll knock it off into the marble mold to polish up the punty mark. Cool down a little bit so I don't have a flat spot when I drop it in here. Knock it off on there. Let me see. I've got to actually use my glasses to see where the punty mark is on this because it's so small. Oh, there it is. Barely a mark on there. Polish that thing up. You can also polish it up while it's spinning if you put it in a larger marble mold. Let's see if I can grab this out of there. Oh. You can get this thing to spin around with a little bit of heat and pressure. Got it spinning right there while it's polishing. Always looks really cool. And then you want to turn off the propane. Just leave the oxygen on a little bit to cool it down so it doesn't have a flat spot while it's still spinning. And then if you look in there, you can see we got a nice round little turp pearl. And we'll throw that in, finish it up. And I got a couple more turp pearls to make for y'all, but you'll see those in the finished video instead of right now, because now you know how to make a turp pearl. You know how to make, what's the middle part? The valve. You know how to make a slurper marble. And if you're the lucky one, you're going to win yourself a dabber and a nail to go along with this whole set made by me. Thanks for tuning in to Meltin with Roysko. Love y'all. Stay comfy.